Okay, it's time to commit. 2024 is the year for prioritizing yourself. Begin your new smile journey with Byte, and you could start seeing results in just 2 to 3 weeks. Just order your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95 at Byte.com. Byte clear liners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces, plus they offer financing options, accept eligible insurance, and you could pay with your HSA, FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte.
Hello, welcome. Let's chat. It's hard. You want to talk? I know, that's disappointing. Sit back. Let's work this out. How's it going? What are we doing here? Where are you going? Hey there. Wow. It's not always easy. It's amazing if you think about it. Let's think about this. Strange. I have some thoughts about that. Life is hard. Trauma bonded.
So I'm sort of triggered when our anonymous storyteller gets told, call me after you wake up. And sorry, I'm not trying to take anything away from the very tragic circumstances that follow those text messages, but I also understand what it's like to get them. I felt this part deeply.
Oh, no.
I was just in Arkansas recently, and I was helping my mom do something with her phone or her technology, right? And I just so happened to see an email that was sent to my aunt from her, and it's a sort of a line by line recap of me visiting her for the trip, like my initial day. And it starts with, Elly arrived and she immediately took a nap. And which is true, but it's said with zero context, where I took a red eye, I barely got any sleep, I traveled for about 8 hours, and the things I got from traveling there for Thanksgiving and helping her move was Elly took a nap when she arrived. And I'm also saying to T, at least your mom can't contact you via text.
Well, she just calls me at 3 a.m. I'm dying. I'm dying.
She hasn't done that in a while.
But it's happened.
I know.
Several times. Like, can't you just text me to call you when I wake up?
Wow. Welcome to Trauma Bonded. I'm Elly Westberg, here with Therese Garcia.
Hello.
And today we're discussing This Is Actually Happening, episode 302. What if you were forced to find closure on your own? Or what if no one said it wasn't your fault? When we recorded this, the title wasn't complete yet. Our anonymous storyteller is the youngest of 4. All older brothers precede her. They are affluent and fine until a move from Canada to Houston when she's 4. It is then her older brothers begin acting out. When she's 6, her older brother Greg sexually abuses her and informs both of their lives forever. Greg is in and out of rehab most of his life and finally takes his own life as a young adult. Our storyteller has never been able to arrive at closure with him. Later, her brother Chris also takes his own life. Through EMDR, talk therapy, and art therapy, our storyteller starts to begin to heal and finds her calling in helping others through art therapy. And full disclosure, I'm the showrunner for This Is Actually Happening, and I have the privilege to vet stories and conduct pre-interviews before they go to Whit for the final interview. And T knows nothing about anything. She comes in fresh. And this show, Trauma Bonded, is for the listeners, a space where we can talk about each episode, digest it, and reflect on it with empathy and also a bit of levity. That's Trauma Bonded. T, what stuck out to you as the heart of the story?
I was able to think of a single word that I think encompasses her story and could be the heart. And that word is promise.
I love it. Go on.
So it can have a lot of meanings. The first for me was, she was brought up in a family that was pretty full of promise, right? Good life, stable, job, all the things. Even, with their baby being 3 months premature, they both survived, that kind of thing. And there was just a lot of potential there, right?
Yeah.
Promises, like the promises you keep, right? Promise of Greg trying to get better, stop using, going to rehab. Of course, there was the promise to give her that rock. Then there was kind of that unspoken promise that almost they never, that lack of closure where they never actually spoke to each other about it. One thing I was thinking about too is like the promise you give to your child as a parent and how we can dig deeper there, but how I think that was a bit of a broken promise there.
Like an unspoken promise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, as we get to the end of her story, kind of her promise, her potential, right? Now that she's feeling stronger, she's had a lot of therapy and just her promise of having more of a normal life maybe, or what she says she's living with purpose. Just there seems to be a brighter future ahead.
Yeah, that's good. It feels like it's a lot of broken promises, a lot of empty promises, unfulfilled promises. It's very sad.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my heart, which is these parents fucking suck.
Okay, yes.
Sorry, I wrote it as God, these parents are infuriating. And I have a cataloged all of their failures.
Oh, fun.
We can talk about that.
Good.
And I don't know, maybe I'm being too harsh or maybe I'm just over it, but I feel like I'm not going to hold back and I'm just going to let loose. And maybe it's not fair and maybe I should be more measured and give these parents more grace, but the catalog of their failures is so fucking well documented that I just don't feel like being nice about it.
Let loose.
Thank you.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Am I wrong? Is this
Not at all?
Does it feel more like egregious than other episodes?
I mean, there's not a lot of good parents in some of these.
Let's talk about one good decision the dad made. Save the wife over the son. And pretty much it went downhill from there.
That was interesting. Yeah, that was interesting. So you think that was a good decision?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't want to get political.
You say that every single time.
But sorry, you have a fully formed human person that you know and love and have committed to versus like the promise or the idea of a person that's not even fully
3 months. Yeah.
alive yet.
Yeah.
No, if the doctor comes and asks you which one you pick, I think you pick the wife.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No, I mean, no, it was just something I'd thought about too. I think I would have also done that, but it's one of those times when you're like, oh,
Yeah.
Potential for longer life versus shorter life. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you go back and forth.
I guess.
No, I mean, it's something you think about. You would probably out in the situation. No, you just you'd be like, wife or kid? You're like, wife. Just like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I would maybe hesitate for a minute and just think about it.
Okay. No one's judging you for that.
Your face is.
No, obviously, every decision should be, especially when it comes to life and death, should be mulled over.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty obvious who the winner should be.
Well, in retrospect.
Right? I mean, assuming you like your wife.
Well, assuming you like your wife, but in retrospect, after meeting her in this story,
Yeah.
knowing what she's done, like, maybe I would change my mind.
Wow.
I mean, he ultimately, it feels like throughout their lives, chooses her over his kids.
Is he choosing her, or is he choosing what's simple and normal? Because, I mean, talk about avoidant people. These people are not willing to act unless it's fucking a fetus is put in their lap. Like they're not interested. Let's go through. Let's catalog the parental fails that happen in this
Okay, let's do it.
household.
Let's do it.
And we can talk, and it will be a way to guide us through the episode.
There's points throughout.
It's exactly. Okay, first of all, they have no idea that Greg is hooked on drugs, and the only way he gets to go to rehab is because he approaches them and forces the issue. She doesn't say exactly when this occurs. I assume it's somewhere in mid-adolescence, 15, 16 years old. T, you don't have kids that are anywhere near adolescence, but do you also find that sort of crazy that you wouldn't know if your kid was on drugs or feeling overwhelmed by drugs? I mean, how do you become so removed from the day-to-day dealings of your kid that you wouldn't know if they had a drug problem? And that sounds really super judgmental. I'm sure that people can explain to me how that happens. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. People could explain it, or maybe there's ways that a kid could hide it or something really well. But ultimately, I think there are people that are like that. When I think about my mom, for example, my mom has a mom versus me as a mom.
Well, your mom is like avoidant, like to a T.
Avoidant to a T, and has no idea anything about drugs or anything. So
avoidance and ignorance, yeah.
Avoidance and ignorance. And with me, it's like, I get out, let's talk about it. And then also, I could probably tell you what you're on and how much you took from how we're interacting.
Yeah.
And I'm really super aware of, I would assume, I guess it depends like how involved you are on the day-to-day to see if there's changes in patterns, changes in personality.
I guess probably the most socially different sort of time so far you've had is Arlo starting school, right? And so I am assuming that you were so super like vigilant and observing if he was acting any different from having to go be around other kids and adults and stuff. You don't know, right? You're like paying attention to things that are unsaid, like just his mannerisms and behaviors and stuff, and seeing if he's being anything different than his normal, happy, jovial kid self.
Yeah, well, and kids are complicated. They could be reacting to something that happened last week.
Yeah.
That they may have misinterpreted, or there was somebody being mean to them and they whatever. And then this week is something, and you don't even know. They're not always going to be the same exact personality all the time.
I mean, it's really interesting to think like, these parents that are super close to their kids and then like they feel apart from them in adolescence, they weren't expecting it to happen. I just can't wait to see what happens to you.
No, it's going to be awful.
There are kids though that, maintain close relationships.
Yeah, but I didn't. Yeah. And I wasn't on drugs or anything, but I was like, I don't want to talk to you anymore, ever. And we're not even fighting. We're not talking for like a year. So, I'm coming back around.
So, her parents were forced to pay attention, and good. They send Greg to rehab, and then he's back to rehab, and he discloses to the therapist, and by the way, therapist, you're also complicit in all of this shit.
I know. Are you going to follow up or what?
Yeah.
It's like, are we good now? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, by the way, Greg said some shit. Oh, okay, we'll deal with it. Like, what the fuck? So the parents confront her, and in her recollection, she nods yes, right? Because you can't really expect her to do much more than that. There's no conversation. There's no comforting. There's displayed a feeling of disappointment and of shame. And this whole little interlude that she talked about is so infuriating. And there's no consequence. So Greg, the perpetrator, comes back to the house from rehab with seemingly no punishment, and he's now back inside the fucking home.
Now we're in danger.
Yeah. What message does this send to our storyteller? What you said doesn't matter. If anything, it's an annoyance that we have to take care of, and there's no consequence to the perpetrator, who is your brother.
And the way you're feeling is probably your fault.
By all demonstration, it feels like that was what she was modeled. This is your fault. Ugh, I mean, this is so heartbreaking. Okay. Mom doesn't want to face it. She's now housing a victim and her victim's perpetrator. It made me think of our storyteller from episode 128.
Yes.
What if your son stabbed your daughter?
Right.
Where the mother had to hold in her head these two ideas, that one is the victim and one is the perpetrator. Except with her, the perpetrator was taken away outside of the house.
Yep.
Whereas in this situation, the perpetrator is left to her to manage.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake.
And she's not identified as a victim.
No. So in this household, they don't talk about it. And according to the storyteller, she thinks they don't talk about it because it's assumed that she will forget about it. And it just made me think about how 6 is such a tender,
Oh my God,
imprinting age. Like, fuck these people for making her battle this on her own. I could seriously, like, blow up a house.
This is what she's going to believe now.
This informs her whole life.
Yeah.
And she blames herself because she thinks she traded her innocence for some rocks. It is this metaphor for the trauma, and as a thing that she gave herself away for, which is so fucking horrible. And it's so sad. It's extra sad because she so wants to be accepted by her older brothers, right? You know, as a 6-year-old, she doesn't know what's going on, you know, but she has an understanding that it's wrong. And it's because we all have that inside of us. We kind of know when things are not as they should be.
You're not at an age where you understand.
But you're aware of, like, what private parts are, let's say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, we don't know exactly what happened, but
Yeah.
I can guess that, you know, obviously private parts were a part of it, obviously. And we don't know, you know, as a 6-year-old, you don't know everything, but you know very quickly in your body know if something is not right or not as it should be.
And it's with someone you trust, someone you love, someone you admire.
Yeah. It's so sad.
How did Chris know?
I know.
We don't really find that out.
Dude, there's so many failures. I can't even.
Yeah.
So over the speaker/intercom, she hears Greg attempt suicide. And again, The mom didn't want to acknowledge that it could happen. Oh, get Greg. He's just such a fucking drama queen. And when it actually is confirmed that he actually is, like, made an effort to do it.
He's bleeding.
Right.
He's bleeding out. Now it's
And
real.
they take him to the hospital and leave our storyteller alone in the house by herself. Again, we don't know how old she is. I assume it's young. I assume it's under 11.
Yep.
She's left alone. She's left with her own feelings that she's caused this somehow.
Yep.
That she's a part of this, that she's caused this, and that no one is addressing it or acknowledging it. The mom is ignore, and she only acts when she's forced to.
Uh-huh. He could die. And she could blame herself.
She does. Later, in Amsterdam, Greg calls, and it raises alarm bells for our storyteller. And she reveals that to her father, and he says, sorry you had to deal with that. Because he still does not fucking get that your damaged fucking son, who you think is just reaching out constantly for attention, hasn't been healed yet.
When's this gonna happen?
I'm sorry I'm feeling so judgmental about this, but
No, good. It's good.
these are seasoned fucking parents at this point. These are kids into their adulthood. And seasoned parents should be able to tell the difference between an attention grab and someone actually reaching out or calling out for help. I don't have kids. I know I say this all the time. But I have had friends that have reached out. I've had nieces that have reached out. To me, if anyone reaches out ever, I just treat it as serious. I say just err on the side of this is fucking serious. Just in case.
Yeah.
And I get it. Parents are sometimes overwhelmed and exhausted, and they don't want to be bothered by every little fucking thing.
Well,
But I
just
say
they're all
always.
older. All the kids are older now. They're out of the house. Everyone's out of the house, right?
But they're tired. They're tired of, like, dealing with this shit. I get it.
Yeah, they've dealt with it the most.
But take it serious, because you know what? I'd just rather err on the side of believing people. And I'm not an exhausted parent, so that's probably easy for me to say. But when you don't err on that side, sometimes you lose your fucking kids.
10 years, though, probably they've been dealing with it. You started with the drugs at 12. But if you lose your kid, you never get to see them ever again.
Yeah, you don't get to deal with it anymore. So, bully for you. You're tired of dealing with it. Well, guess what? You lost your kid. You don't get to deal with it anymore. Again, I don't know what it's like to be a parent, and sounds like the fucking worst. He's found in her bed.
Yeah.
Is this symbolic?
Yeah.
Feels like it. Feels like parents were avoiding all of this, but it sounds like both Greg and our storyteller needed to fucking talk about it. Greg needed to hear that his abuse led him to being an abuser. He needed to hear that. I don't know if that was ever expressly said to him, but he needed to be let off the fucking hook.
Or at least you can't keep it inside.
Some kind of understanding. Especially, they're expecting their kids to just live amongst each other like this never happened, right? So if they're expecting that to happen, at least let them have some sort of closure over this incident that happened years ago.
I mean, they're hanging out with each other.
And it sounds like Greg never got any closure on his own abuse.
No. It's so scary.
Oh, she says it perfectly herself. This little 10-minute blip in time.
Oh, yeah.
Completely informed both of their lives forever. It just makes me so mad. And this idea that this rock collection, she traded her innocence for, that the way that that she sort of puts it in these finite terms in a way that that helps her. They asked me what I wanted when he died. I wanted this rock collection because it symbolized this event that changed both of us irrevocably. And it's not fair, but it's how she holds it in her mind. And then to be at 30 years old, and finally, I feel like this is the payoff in the story that we're all wanting. Like, she talks to the parents. What did I say, whatever, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Mom puts her head in the sand again.
What are you talking about? Like, this isn't like the biggest thing that's ever happened ever in their kid's early life.
I don't get it. I just don't get it. You ask your kid this question, and I get it. You don't want the answer to be what you fear it will be. But wouldn't you be just like staring at your kid, like looking for even a little bit, like the least little bit of acknowledgement, like knowing that they might be afraid to let you know what actually happened? You'd be like, you would look for that like little bit of like a nod, like to let them off the hook, and immediately like pull them in your arms and let them know that it wasn't their fault and that they're gonna be okay. Like, it's just such a big failing on these people's parts for so many years and so many times, so many iterations of how this came up in their lives, and they just fucking failed every fucking time.
Yeah. It's like they could have just been putting dishes away while they ask.
Yeah.
Are you even paying attention right now?
Are you looking at me?
Because she's not hiding it.
Right.
Even a slight nod, like...
And they seem to be, like, at least close to, like, a therapized world. Like, if you can't handle it, have a professional sitting there with you. Can you come and be here? We're going to talk to my daughter about this terrible, awful thing that happened to her. Can you be here and help, like, facilitate this so that we don't fuck it up over and over and over again? And then...
No, not considered.
Okay, so how did the brothers know? Like, what is the world? What is the circumstance where this gets talked about and she's not in the room?
Well, I also just wanted to go back to that conversation.
Yeah.
Real quick. Let's say she didn't respond, like it was too subtle, and she looked scared and maybe confused.
Yeah.
And you're like, ooh.
Yeah, also
maybe,
counts.
Yeah, or maybe like, ooh, we're putting something in her head that maybe didn't happen. Maybe. But the next thing she says is, the dad says, like, so we didn't explore it any further. It's like, that's the only thing I'd be thinking about forever after that. Just like, are you look, we can talk about it, you know? There's no judgment here. If something happened, let us know, okay? Like, just, you know? And like, oh, okay, it didn't happen. Cool. Bye then. Forever.
Yeah. Is this a generational thing? This is something we always we're talking about constantly. Is this a generational thing? This whole idea of like, you don't want to bring shame on the family. You want to sweep it under the rug. You don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, maybe they don't understand it. It doesn't go away. It just makes things worse.
If the parents are still alive and somehow they listen to this episode, you fucked up. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. I don't know if I'm being too harsh, but...
No.
Over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
So many opportunities. Never turned it around.
So many. Over decades.
And for sure she would have, the storyteller would have been like, oh good, like finally they seem interested enough for me to finally share it.
Yeah.
But they never once turn around to be like, wait, this isn't adding up.
Mm-mm. And she, by all accounts, it sounds like she's been so graceful and kind to them. Like, she doesn't hold near the amount of resentment that I would.
I know. It's like this whole thing around, like, these cold parents and, like, withhold love
Just accept them.
Don't seem to care.
That's just how they are.
And you're just maybe yearning for their love, so you just continue to try.
Take scraps.
Yeah. I'd be like, peace. I'm out.
But these are all ideas that exist in a vacuum, right? Like, that's how you're used to the life that you have.
Yeah.
You don't know any, like, you can get out of it or have some distance from it and look back and go, oh wait, that was fucked up. But but because you're so close to it, you also have a ton of grace for the people inside of it. So I think it's very rare that people actually like say peace out. We know this from our own parents, you know,
I peace out all the time.
but you haven't fully peace. You go see your mom every week. You're
Well,
not
all the time
fully,
at my mom.
but she's the biggest.
I'll hang out with my mom. She annoys me, but, we have a strained relationship, but I'm nice about it, I'm talking about, like, all the other family. I'm just like, peace.
Well, it's easy to get rid of those, but your immediate family is harder to get rid of.
We should probably talk about Chris's death.
Yeah.
That came out of nowhere. There's no way of knowing, right? I mean,
I think it's one of those situations where it's like impossible to figure out. It does sound like he left a note, right?
yeah, and it said no one could understand how much I suffered or something like that.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just going to say parents had something to do with it.
Yeah, we don't know what was going on in that family. We only know from the storyteller.
Right.
But I guarantee you that all of their kids were harmed by their inaction or ignorance.
Dismissing their emotions or
Yeah. Or just sweeping shit under the rug.
feels like neglect, like emotional neglect. There's something going on when two kids do that. Two of your kids do that.
I know. I mean, I just hate to be judgy, but I mean, when push comes to shove, it sounds like they acted. I mean, Greg was in and out of rehab, like it sounded like
Yeah.
most of his life. You know, they took conventional means into account when it was put in their face. Boomers are really good at compartmentalizing. This is what I've realized with my mother. They compartmentalize like the best of them. Like
Yeah.
one thing has nothing to do with the other, and it usually is all fucking related.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't take a
Yep.
genius.
It's all related.
It's all part of it.
It does not take a genius, that's for fucking sure. But it does take someone willing to look at the whole. The WHOLE, not HOLE.
Thank you for the clarification there. Yeah, so that was definitely a shock. I didn't.
Terrible shot.
And then we kind of talked about all the therapy she's been doing.
And I love a good story where someone is like so thankful for their therapist. I love that. Yeah, it sounds like she's done a ton of work. I mean, I think that's really hard to be therapized for these things with someone that's so close to you. It's not a stranger. That's like your family. And to arrive at points of healing and to not have that person to help complete the work with. There's no one to confront. There's no one to find closure with. There's no one to find healing from. Like, it really is truly, and even if that person did exist, you still have to do that work on your own. You know, we tend to talk about closure as this thing that we get from someone, but closure is something that we give ourselves. We don't have to get it from anyone else. We get it on our own and we give it to ourselves. And you don't have to rely on another party that hurt you or wronged you to give it to you. But that being said, no one ever told her it wasn't her fault. And she will always have this sort of blemish on this relationship with her brother, Greg.
Yeah.
It's so awful to have this thing between you that no one wants you to talk about, but it's just there. No one, like no adult in the room is going, hey, let's sort this out. It fucking pisses me off so much.
Yeah.
Can you imagine having 2 kids in your house, T? One is wrong, the other, and you're not talking about it. It's not being addressed, and you would just expect them to exist with each other and have like a close, like sibling bond.
It's only if you believe that if you ignore it, it'll go away. It's like, oh, they're young. They're not going to remember any of this.
But 6 is the thing where you remember everything. That's when it begins.
When something like that happens, that's what you remember
Yeah.
out of the whole year.
And to be a parent and like just as much as I'm giving them shit for like their inaction, like I'm feeling bad for thinking about how they have to live with that too. Like they're living in and amongst that too. How do you live with that? How do you exist in a room with these 2 kids that you know exactly what's going on between them and you're not saying anything about it? And you're loving them equally. How do you deal with that?
And then how are they dealing now?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not one-dimensional, hopefully.
All right. Do you have anything else?
I just think those last couple minutes of her story, right, about trying to make sense of it, but it's actually better not to, like, to accept it. And then thinking about holding those kind of 2 parts of, like, loving them, you know, caring for them, but then also the anger with it and being able to have those coexist. I thought that was really
Intelligent.
Yeah, and I'm sure hard to do.
Yeah. I mean, she wants for things that can never happen. So what do you do with that? You have to put it somewhere. And it does feel like she's found a way through with art therapy, and to be able to give that to other people. I think it's going to just continue to aid in her healing. Thank you for listening. This has been an episode of Trauma Bonded. You can find our show where podcasts are kept. If you like us, please rate and review us on Apple or other places, or reach out on Instagram. Thanks to Anonymous for sharing their story and for giving us the opportunity to talk about it. And thanks to the This Was Actually Happening team, including Whit, Missildine, and Andrew Waits, and the maker of our music and website, Nathaniel Trimboli. And thank you to Cathy Sitzes for editing this episode, and to Katie Cable for building those blasted Instagram posts. You can contact us at traumabondedpod@gmail.com and find us on Instagram at traumabondedpodofficial, or visit our website at traumabondedpod.com. Again, y'all, storyteller update and comment episode dropping in the next couple of weeks. Stay vigilant for that. We are trauma bonded to the story, to the storyteller, to the listeners, and to each other. Thanks for spending time with us today. Love you, T.
Love you, Elly. Good job. Hey, thank you.
Hey, thank you. Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Trauma Bonded.